Coming to paperback and e-readers in 2021, John Haynes, Taking Care of Business. The man who rules the world breaks on a brand new partner to help him take care of business in this action-packed, all-new John Haynes series adventure. Get John Haynes, Taking Care of Business in 2021 at online booksellers everywhere.
A 17-year-old boy thought he was going to be graduating high school this June, but was shocked to find out he had only passed 3 classes in 4 years and ranked at the top half of his class with a 0.13 grade point average and will be moved back to the 9th grade. Now, Tiffany France, the mother of this young man, thought that her son was going to be receiving his diploma this June, but after 4 years of high school, he's going to have to start over in the 9th grade once more. Now, when I take a critical examination of this 17-year-old, he reminds me a lot of the students I went to school with back in the late 1980s when I was in Park West High School. And back then, the New York City public school system was a complete wreck, and these high schools were more gladiator academies where students tried to survive instead of getting an education. And in these modern day prison pipelines, many young boys wound up getting lost in the system, and that's what looks like happened here with this young man. It looks like the counselors, the people who were in charge, lost this young man, and they did not keep on top of his records because this boy was supposedly absent or late for over 272 days, and nobody really paid attention. Now, your average school year, I think, is about 180 days, so this boy practically missed a year and a half of school days, or was late for a year and a half of school days, and no one in the system ever wanted to find out where that boy was. And that was probably one of the reasons why he only passed 3 classes in 4 years, because he wasn't going to school, and he probably wasn't going to school probably because that school was possibly a cage, and he did not feel safe in that cage. Because these schools, again, they are gladiator academies, they are prison yards, and they are filled with extremely dysfunctional individuals. So it's hard for anybody to learn in a toxic environment like that. So this boy practically fell through the cracks in that toxic environment. And again, that environment was just really toxic because nobody in the faculty or administration ever wanted to find out where this boy was. They just kept pushing him through. And the reason why they kept pushing him through was because many in the faculty and administration, they wanted to keep their jobs, and with these new rigid standards and guidelines that were established by people like I think it was Danielson and many others, like here in New York, their teachers, they just pass kids through because they don't want to get a U rating and they don't want to wind up losing their jobs. So that's why this boy wound up being passed from English 1, even if he failed to English 2. And that's why he got passed from Algebra 1 to Algebra 2, because somebody in administration did not want to lose their job, and they put their job over the needs of students. So that was one part of why this boy wound up being passed through for 4 years. The other part of why this boy got passed through had to do with that single mother household this boy came from. And this boy fell through the cracks of that single mother household the same way he fell through the cracks of the public school system, because his single mother had to work 3 jobs, and because she had to work 3 jobs, there was no way she could supervise this boy and see where this boy was going as related to his education or as related to his conduct. So she could not supervise him, and the school could not supervise him. And even though the school allegedly said that they sent out notices and sent out people, this boy probably was out here intercepting the phone calls that were made as related to attendance. Because when I was in Park West, I remember a lot of kids saying they would intercept the phone call because they knew that that recorded call was coming. And any letters that came, because this boy had a mailbox key, he probably got all those letters and tore them up or threw them in the trash because the mother was so busy working and had three other kids to take care of, that she probably never heard anything about things, and she probably never even wanted to ask anything about report cards, because report cards are something that you get every semester in 3 quarters. You usually get 3 report cards when I was going to school, but she probably never asked about a single thing regarding this boy because she was too busy working and could not really check up on this boy the way she thought. Because, again, the only reason why this boy probably had a 0.13 grade point average and only passed 3 classes was because he was probably not going to school. And when I look at his attendance rate, that was, again, 272 days out of a 180-day school year in 4 years, it looks like he practically missed a year and a half of school and was practically either cutting school or not going to school, because that's the only way you would be able to go out here and not be and fail practically everything. And we had a lot of those kids when I was in high school. You know, they were out here and they would come one day a week, and then we had other guys who would show up the first couple of days for class and then practically disappear, and then later on the semester come back with a sheet of paper, or they would come in with a one subject notebook talking about how they wanted to go to school and pass classes towards the end of the semester. And usually these guys would practically disappear after a couple of days with that sheet of paper or that one subject notebook, and they would only go because their mothers pressured them because they weren't going to get their welfare money. And in this case, it looks like this working mother, what happened was she's dealing with a son who was out here in the streets, and this son is out here and he's making it look like he's going to school, but really he's probably out in the streets, or he waits till she goes to work and the other kids are in school and he's back at the house playing PlayStation, or he's at a friend's house playing PlayStation or Xbox, because that's what people used to do back in the day. They would cut school, or they wouldn't even go to school. They would go to a friend's house and they would be playing the Nintendo Entertainment System or the Sega Master System, or they would be out here hanging in the streets. They wouldn't go to school, and then what would happen is they would come back 4 years later. The mother is expecting the boy to be graduating, but the boy has not really done anything in school for years. And what happens is the mother winds up embarrassed. So that's happened when I was growing up as a kid to a lot of mothers out here. They were shocked to find out, oh, the son that they thought was going to school, he wasn't going to school for months on end. He was either hanging with some girl, he was in some girl's house, he was playing video games, he was out in the street. He wasn't out here getting an education. And while she was busy working, she wasn't able to keep tabs on that son. And that's what happened to a lot of guys back in the day. Now, when I look at this boy again, the school did fail him in one part, but his single mother household failed him as well. And he failed himself also. And I'd have to say he failed himself overall because he had every opportunity to, again, apply himself in that school, and he had every opportunity to go out here and try to make these grades. But he didn't want to do that, and he didn't want to go out here and keep on top of his education. He was thinking, oh, the people there would do it, but that's not how you do it. I remember when I was in Park West and I was in there and a grade advisor had practically written me off, I realized I needed to take my education into my own hands. And when I changed schools from Park West to Taft, I started to take my education in my own hands, keeping track of my credits, keeping track of my records, and keeping track of what RCT tests I needed to take, because in my other school I had to wait for a teacher to assign me to those rooms. But when I got to Taft, I went to the rooms, took my own exams, and passed those exams, and that's something I had to do for myself. And this boy, probably because he came from a single mother household, was expecting the school to do for him, but you can't expect the school to do for you. No, you're going to have to go out here and put in the work if you want to graduate, and you're going to have to persevere and push if you want to graduate. And with Tiffany France's son, I don't see where he persevered and pushed, because again, when you are absent or late for over 272 days, this boy was practically gone for a year and a half in those 4 years. And with a boy gone for a year and a half in 4 years, there's no way he was going to graduate at all, because he had not put in the work towards graduating from day one. And sadly, I saw a lot of kids like that when I was going to Park West High School back in the late 80s, and I saw a lot of kids just fall through the cracks because they would come in on the first day of school, but then you would not see them for 3 to 4 months until the end of the semester in January or the end of the semester in June. And again, they would be the ones with one sheet of paper talking about how they're going to work to pass the class, or they would be in there with a one subject notebook for 5 different classes talking about how they're ready to pass the class. Now, but the real reason why they were there is because single mommy feared losing her welfare benefits, and now thanks to welfare reform, many of those children, they don't go to school at all, so they fall through the cracks. And with this Baltimore administration, they fall through the cracks because people don't really want to call about these students. They just pass them through because they fear getting fired due to these draconian evaluation systems that are a part of today's education system. And these draconian systems make it where people just fudge the numbers, move you to the next class, and then deal with you that way. And then once you cycle through the system over the 4 years, they just put you back in the system for another 4 years until you turn 21, and then they just write you off completely. So the mother is thinking, oh, they never gave your son an opportunity, and partially, yes, that is part of it, but the other part is the parent wasn't active in this boy's life. The parent wasn't pushing this boy and holding him accountable. Now, if there was an issue with him not advancing and progressing, they didn't need to contact the mother. It was all about him, and everybody's making it like he's a victim. But I can tell you from being in these schools that these kids are not victims. A lot of them make these choices not to go to school. Some make the choice not to go to school because the environment is not safe. Others make the choice because they just don't want to do the work. And others make the choice to go out here and chase girls instead of trying to chase that diploma. And that's why so many kids wind up dropping out of school and wind up failing in school, because they aren't really focused on their priorities. And the reason why they're not focused on their priorities is because a lot of these boys, they come from single mother households, and they're caught up in chasing social currency rather than trying to build themselves up. And that's one of the reasons why I believe this boy probably wound up falling so far behind the grade, because a lot of, like his grandfathers and fathers that I went to school with back in the day, a lot of these kids, like this young man, got caught up in being social instead of trying to go out here and get that work done. And this administration reminded me a lot of the administration I grew up with in the 80s, apathetic, indifferent, and the parents here, they probably are the same as the parents, their grandmothers and mothers and great-grandmothers, were not really focused on their kids' education until it's too late. But if you really want your kids to get a good education, you're going to have to take that education into your own hands. And sadly, this boy's mother didn't take this boy's education in her own hands because she was too busy working, and now she wants to come in at the last minute. But that's par for the course with your single mothers out here. They're so caught up in trying to go out here and try to work to take care of the other kids, smaller kids, that they don't see their older sons falling through the cracks. And this is why fathers are so important and older brothers are so important, because it's those men in the community that can go and find out what's going on with this boy and help him get it together. And I don't think this boy is going to be able to get it together, even though he's changed to another school, because he still got this single mom practically enabling him and making excuses for him, because he needed to have been held accountable from day one for stepping out on school and going out here and fooling around. Because if you're missing over 270 days, there's clearly this kid's been gone from school for a year and a half. And I wonder what happened to mom in that situation, because it's really up to two people, really up to one. I mean, the mom was supposed to have her eye on this boy, one, and this boy needed to have a love and passion for education, and he didn't really have that, and that's probably why he didn't really want to go to school, and that's why he probably just fell through these cracks, because he didn't really want that diploma, because he didn't see that diploma as a stepping stone towards taking himself to the next level. Now, if you want to see me make more videos like this, you can donate to my Patreon, my PayPal, or my Cash App by clicking the links in the description box. And if you want to learn more about why so many boys like this fall apart and fall through the cracks, you can pick up my book, The Man Crisis, on Amazon.com in paperback and Kindle format, Smashwords, the iBook Store, and Google Play. That's all I have to say for this video. You can comment, rate, and subscribe.